CATIA Essential Training. This will be part 009, and we are going to discuss various aspects regarding relimitation within CATIA. So in order to have access to those, we can go to Insert Operation, and underneath there will be the relimitation. So we have Trim, Break, QuickTrim, Close Arc and Complement. Okay, so to get started, we are going to discuss the operation regarding trim. I will draw two lines, and with the trim option active, we see that the sketch tools will be extended. So we're going to have two more options. One is trim all elements, and the other one is trim first element. So with trim all elements, if I will trim this line with this line, we're going to have only this cut. I will undo by pressing Ctrl and Z, or we can use this undo. That in our case will also be line, so the last feature used will also be added there. If you're gonna trim differently, so now starting with this element and afterwards only this element, we're gonna see how that line will be extended. So depending on the position of the cursor, we can specify exactly what do we want to trim. Either this element at the top or this. So if I will click on the one on the bottom, the one on top will be trimmed. Now the undo button, we're gonna see that undo relimit, so I will undo that. I will define a new trim, but in this case I will only select trim first element. So now if I will select this element, this will be the first element. If I will trim it, we're gonna see that only this element will be trimmed. So no longer we're gonna have to trim the other element. And again, we can resize it as needed. For example, I can just position it over here randomly, but usually only position some trims like that with no constraints are not very common within computer-aided design. So consider to extend up to an intersection. We're gonna see that the software will also add a coincidence over there. So this point will now be coincidence to that line. It will be positioned exactly on that line. If you are gonna expand the tree, we're gonna see that within the constraint we have that coincidence between the point and the line added. Okay, so let's see, regarding trimming, this is pretty much the aspects that I wanted to discuss. The trimming functionality is quite common, and we are gonna go now forward toward the breaking point. Let me mute that a bit, sorry for that. So let's go forward. So the following one will be break. We can use break differently. So we see that the sketch tools doesn't have any options. So let me redo that. So that will be the sketch tools. It's snapped at the top. So we can use a point on a line, or we can use a point belonging to another line, and that will create a projection. So for example, I will initially draw a simple horizontal line like this, and now using the break, we see in the left corner, select the element to be broken or a common point. So I want this element to be broken, and afterwards I will need to specify the point. That can either be one of the starting point, but in this case that won't have any functionality. But for example, if I will click it over here, I will see that that will be the breaking point, and we have that coincidence again added. So I can resize only that segment. Now if I want to split those two lines, I will need to go on break. I will need to select that point. If you're gonna see under geometry, that point will be this point. So point, in my case, name 302. I have so many points because I already did some, let's say, within the same part, I created various sketches and stuff like that. So they are no longer within the original order. They will incrementally be added. So currently I'm on 303. Now I have the possibility to detach that. So this is how we can trim a segment. But we can also trim by using the point belonging to another line. So let's take a look at that. For example, I will draw a line like this, afterwards another one at the bottom. And now if I will use break, I will select the bottom element, but I will choose the breaking point to be on the top line. And we're gonna see that the breaking point will fill in that line towards their intersection, and that will be the newly defined element. So we can also use break in order to complete various lines up to the desired intersection, or we can use a point as a breaking point. For example, I will create a point by clicking over here, and now if I will go on break, I will click on that line and I will specify that I want this point to be the breaking point. We're gonna see that CATIA will do a projection of that, and the newly defined breaking point will be over there at the bottom. And again, I need to use another break on that exact point in order to be able to move that. Okay, what else can we do with the break command? One case is regarding the circle middle. So for example, if I will create a circle right within the origin, I will see that now I can not move that since it's positioned directly over there. We don't have a coincidence added, but with the break, if I will select that point, we're gonna see that the selected point will be isolated. I will click OK, and afterwards I can move that along. So that works if, for example, I have a circle at the end of this line directly on that point, I can move it like this, and again with break I can unlink that, and now that circle will no longer be coincidence with that. We can do the same for a spline, so mainly we use lines over here, but I will also create a spline, so something like this. And now with break I can select the spline, afterwards I can select the desired point. But keep in mind that like this I will just extend it, so the spline is splitted in two, but I don't have the possibility to detach them. So I will use again break, specify a point. Afterwards this short little line can be trimmed. So that. In this case I will trim it differently. So starting from the top all the way to the bottom, and now we're gonna see that we have this spline that we can move along. There's still some coincidence while this was also created. We're gonna see that, for example, if I will move it over here, I will add a coincidence between those, and now if I will move it along. So keep that also in mind where you are creating various sketches regarding those auto-defined constraints. What else can we do with the break? So I'll go back to break. We can also break a circle, so something like this. I can either go at the top on the vertical or on the horizontal, or I can specify a location, and afterwards we're gonna see that we're gonna have those two sections, but again additional breaking is required in order to separate those two. So another break over here, maybe over there. It will be this quadrant that has been broken. Keep in mind that break doesn't work on composite curves. So we're gonna see what composite curves are. They are mainly projection based. So a different approach is required in order to break those sections. Okay, so let's go forward. This will be the QuickTrim. This is the most popular trimming tool in CATIA. I usually have this set within the operation as the default go-to button. So this is that. For QuickTrim, we have multiple options. So in order to better highlight this, I will redraw some elements over here. I will create several circles, so something like this. Now if I will go on the QuickTrim, which has the icon of an eraser, we're going to see that by default we have break and rubber in. So in this case, this is the default option, break and rubber in. If I will just select this one, the software will delete this section. So keep in mind that usually the desired profile will be deleted. So if I want to delete the bottom, not the bottom, the exterior of the sketch, I can just click on that and that will be deleted. The next one is called break and rubber out. So this does quite the opposite. So in this case, if I will click on this, I will keep that, and only that one will be deleted at the bottom. So this is, let's say, the main difference between those two. I will undo that QuickTrim. For some reason, that feature remain active, so I will undo that. And we also have the final one, so break and keep in this case. With the break and keep, we can select that element, and we're going to see that it will be deleted, but not really deleted, just separated. So similar to the break feature that we just used. We have the top circle, arc, and the bottom one. And we have various coincidents over here that we can either select and delete if we no longer need them. For example, I can select that and I can move it along. Okay. So keep in mind that also this doesn't work for extended advanced profiles that were generated using profiles. So the same principle applies. In some cases we can have those trimmed, but for the breaking options, if you keep it like this with break and keep, it will not work that well on complex projected sketches. Okay, so if we're gonna go forward, we're gonna have the close arc. So the close arc is quite intuitive. If I will define a 3-point arc, something like this. If I will go on the close arc, we're gonna see that we have the possibility to close that arc, and we're gonna have a fully defined circle now. So we no longer have that breaked into two arcs. Okay, so one more additional aspect regarding the close arc. Keep in mind that this also works with other elements. So in this case, even with a spline, if for example we have a spline that has been trimmed, so I will go on trim, and maybe I will trim it over here. Using the close arc, this will restore the initial spline. So as we can see, we have that initial spline restored. And it also works with other elements, for example, something like an ellipse. If I will have this ellipse over here, again, let me fully define that. So one axis, second axis, and only afterwards I will draw a line in order to trim some elements. So with normal trimming, I will maybe trim that all the way over here. And now if I will go on close arc, again, this will know that it used to be an ellipse, and that will be again redraw. And the last element, so, will be complement. This also works for element like arcs. If I will define a 3-point arc, this will be the 3-point arc, and using complement we're gonna obtain the other half of that, not really half, the other side of it. Okay, so that also should work with ellipse. If I will, okay, so go on trim, but I will go on quick trim because this is the most commonly used one. And now if I'm gonna select that complement, for this, we're going to obtain the other side of the ellipse. Okay, so that's pretty much what I wanted to discuss within the video. So mainly the aspects regarding sketching, relimitation using trim, break, QuickTrim, closer, complement. I will also create some video sections for each feature in order to allow a better access specifically to the desired feature. Okay, so if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe. Even now, the vast majority of my views are from people that are not subscribed, so more than 95% or something like that. And I would really like to increase the number of subscribers for this channel. Okay, thanks for watching. See you in the next video.